So you're thinking about relocating to Florida and eyeing the St. Pete area. Well, before you unpack your bags and book that plane flight, there are a few things that you definitely need to know about, and one of which at the end, which is a critical aspect that I think a lot of people are wondering about, which is St. Pete safe? I'm gonna be diving into that, so make sure you stick around to the end of the video. You'll be getting a full, honest lowdown from everything from weather to traffic to cost of living to safety to wildlife. My name is Connor, and I moved to the Tampa Bay area from New Jersey about 11 years ago. I attended the University of Tampa, and I've lived around Tampa Bay ever since, from Tampa to Madeira Beach to St. Petersburg. And let me tell you, I've learned a lot about the advantages and disadvantages of living in this area. And in the meantime, I've also built my own real estate team, the OBS group here, which we're based right here in Tampa Bay. Let's start with what makes St. Pete special. It's got a vibe that you really won't find anywhere else. From the vibrant art scene in the Grand Central District to the iconic St. Pete Pier, there's always something exciting happening in this city. You will never run out of things to do, whether they're indoors in the AC or outdoors in the beautiful sunshine. One of my favorite things to do in St. Pete is all of the outdoor exercise opportunities, from swimming, which I do an outdoor swim group around the St. Pete Pier, to biking and running along the waterfront there in downtown St. Pete, along Vinoy Park, going up to Coffee Pot Bayou. But you know how it goes. Every strength has its flip side. We're gonna dive into that today. So let's kick off by addressing the elephant in the room, the Florida weather. Sure, vacationers love the Florida heat, and the fact that St. Pete is known for having the most days of sunshine anywhere in the country, 361 days that is. But let me tell you, the summers here are no joke. We're talking sweltering heat and humidity that'll have you reaching for the nearest air conditioner. Now, I grew up in New Jersey, so for anyone coming from the Northeast, you'll know that up there it does also get pretty hot. Now, here in Tampa Bay, we do benefit from having that sea breeze, so it does keep things a little bit cooler. But if you were to go further inland, for example, towards Orlando, like if you go to Disney World in the summer, it is absolutely brutal. I would never do that. So moving to Florida, you might be thinking, will you be able to adjust to the heat? And for me, the answer is yes. I think you'll probably get worse in the cold like I did, but you will adjust to the heat, and we've got AC everywhere, so it's not that big of a deal. Now, here in St. Pete and the Tampa Bay area in general, we really have lucked out in terms of hurricanes. We haven't experienced a direct hit from a Category 3 or higher since 1921. That's a full 100 years ago. When it hit a century ago, Tarpon Springs, which is the north end of Tampa Bay, took the brunt of it. It's almost like there's some sort of protective shield around us. Some locals attribute it to the indigenous people who put a blessing upon our land, but who really knows? I'm not sure. All I know is that it's been about 100 years. So we've been incredibly fortunate here. And it's honestly kind of bizarre when you look at the map and see how far we stick out furthest along the west coast of Florida, almost like a magnet for storms, yet we've continued to dodge it time after time. So hopefully that remains the same case for the next 100 years. Now, tips-wise for hurricanes, you're going to want to do that prep way before any storms come. You're going to want to buy your sandbags, buy them online, get them ready, because once the hurricane comes, it's going to be hard to find them in stores. The communal lines that the city set up are going to take forever. So just kind of get your prep done ahead of time. You know, have some non-perishables and stuff like that. But for the most part, again, we haven't really been directly hit, so I always feel like I over-prepare and then nothing happens and I'm almost a little disappointed, which sounds stupid, but it's just not something that affects us too much. That being said, it's really good to be over-prepared. And it's not uncommon around here for people to have generators, so if you want to make sure you have power through any storms, then make sure to get yourself a generator too. Moving on to the wildlife. Living in Florida means you are sharing your space with some pretty interesting creatures. We've got everything from cockroaches to alligators, and of course, those infamous mosquitoes. It's no wonder that everyone's concerned about those pesky bugs when considering a move here. But here's the thing, the mosquito situation definitely varies depending on where you are. So if you're in a low-lying area prone to flooding, yeah, you're gonna be battling with mosquitoes. But if you're in a spot that doesn't hold water like that, you'll be fine. Mosquitoes aren't as much of a problem there, so when you're scoping out properties, keep that in mind. Stay out of the flood zones and make sure it drains properly, because mosquitoes definitely can be a nuisance, but they're definitely not a deal breaker if you choose the right spot. And again, whether you're coming from the northeast or the west, any areas that have water that's a bit stagnant and holding, there's always going to be mosquitoes there, so that's probably not new for you. Another thing that most people who are not from here can sometimes be freaked out about are the sharks. In Florida, sharks are just a normal part of that coastal lifestyle, but encounters are rare and typically non-threatening. Aside from sharks, Florida is home to a diverse array of wildlife. We've got loads of dolphins and manatees, which you're going to see a lot more often. Lots of colorful fish, sea turtles, so definitely keep your eye out for those. We do also have some stingrays and jellyfish. You want to stay away from those. Always do that little stingray shuffle dance, and remember to pick up your trash and cover any holes you dig in the sand so we protect those sea turtles during their season. Now let's move on to one huge topic of conversation, the increasing cost of living. Florida was always looked at as that super cheap and reasonable place to live. It's an easy retirement. And as of late, it is a little different. Everyone's kind of saying, wow, it's not as cheap to live here as it once was. Costs rose about 3.7% in Tampa Bay over the last year, according to the data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Inflation in the region has been consistently higher than national average, now at about 3.5%, and the year-over-year rate for St. Petersburg, Tampa, Clearwater area hasn't risen since September of last year, but still remains high. So let me show you some real examples of what real estate looks like in St. Pete and how affordable it really is. Let's look at some 3-2s. They're about 1,500, 2,000 square feet in a good area. So looking here, you can see on the map here, these are the available homes. Again, we're looking at single family between 1,500 to 2,000 square feet. So if we look at this one, for example, 685. It's a 3-bed, 1.5 bath, about 1,600 square feet. So this one it's an older home that they've renovated and they're now selling. So you can kind of get the general gist of it. Between about 500,000 to 600,000, you can get a pretty decent home. So if you want something a little bit nicer, again, obviously going up in price, this one's a 3-bed, 2-bath that's on the market for $995, right next to downtown. So you are paying a lot for location, but then you'll start to see properties that are completely done up and renovated. You can also get some new construction around that price point too. Now, again, on average, you're probably looking at between $600 to $750 for a decent 3-2. Starter homes are more around the $400,000 mark, and obviously new construction and nicer homes, bigger homes, can go well above $1 million, depending on the condition and depending on the location, if it's closer to downtown. Now, cost-wise though, although prices have gotten a little bit higher for sure through COVID and everyone wanting to move down here, one big plus is that we still don't have a state income tax here. So depending on where you're living right now, that could be a massive positive swing for your bottom line. There's no tax on your pension or retirement plans, but insurance is definitely a whole nother story, and it has been a little bit of a headache lately. A lot of people are pretty nervous about that, and I totally get it. Florida is not the only state dealing with this. California's got similar problems with their natural disasters, and Georgia is starting to see it too. But it's not so bad that you can't get insurance, which is the main question that we often get asked. So basically, here's the deal. If your home is in good shape with a solid roof and good windows, and you take care of it, then you'll be fine. The real problem is for those who can't afford to maintain their homes properly, and that's when insurance companies start dropping. But here in the Tampa Bay area, you will not have a problem getting insurance. Now, what seems to be everyone's least favorite thing about Florida is the traffic. Florida drivers are notorious for being bad drivers, not using turn signals, bad lane changes, an overall lack of patience on the road, which definitely adds to the traffic jams. There's definitely more accidents here than I saw when I was living in New Jersey. Not to mention, since 2021, the Tampa Bay region's population has grown by 2.2% and is expected to continue to expand at nearly double the national rate. So by 2026, the population of Tampa Bay is projected to exceed 5.3 million people. More people, more traffic. And Florida is a melting pot, so everyone's got different driving styles. People are from different countries, different states, and that's where we're getting all these accidents. We're known for being a retirement destination, so the cautious elderly also contribute to the traffic. But they have done tons of construction on our roads to alleviate that a bit. Recently, St. Pete has opened up some new toll roads and express lanes, so that's been helpful. And the overhaul that's currently in progress for the bridge connecting St. Pete and Tampa, the Howard Franklin, will also be a nice benefit for public transportation. Speaking of public transportation, if you're coming from New York or Chicago or a large city that has plenty of alternative transportation options, you're gonna have to adjust a little bit. So downtown St. Pete is pretty walkable, but we don't have any subways. Taxi cabs aren't all over the place. It's more like Ubers. We've also got loads of electric bikes, a lot of scooters, and on almost every street corner, you can just rent them. Again, you can use an Uber if you don't want to go with those, but we really don't have tons of great public transportation. We do have the Sunrunner, which is a public bus system that they've overhauled, and that loops along First Avenue South and First Avenue North, extending all the way from downtown St. Pete to St. Pete Beach. One nice thing about the Sunrunner is that it gets the crews past traffic in its own dedicated lane, making it sometimes a faster option for getting around. But again, for people used to subways and underground transportation, things that are moving always on time and faster, you might not be as happy with our public transportation around here because everything's above ground. Now let's get into a topic that no one likes to discuss: crime and safety. Data shows that over 90% of Florida communities have a lower crime rate than St. Petersburg. But don't let those numbers scare you. For perspective, if we compare St. Pete's crime rates to those of major cities, in our area, which sees a lot of tourists, petty theft is unfortunately common. Many people leave their cars unlocked, inviting trouble. I recommend using a crime app to compare crime rates between your current city and St. Pete and to explore specific neighborhoods. This will give you a much more accurate understanding of the current living situation here. I can personally say, from living in Tampa to the beaches to St. Pete, I have never felt unsafe, and I walk around all the time. We really just don't have very bad areas here. The quote-unquote bad or dangerous areas in St. Pete or Tampa are really nothing like a lot of those other big cities around the country. It was fun getting to share my wealth of knowledge about St. Pete with you. If you're thinking about making a move to the area and want to start to explore and understand different neighborhoods, where might be the best fit for you, go ahead and reach out to myself and my team, because we'd love to be your local guides. Personally, living in St. Pete and having the opportunity to travel all around the country and even around the world, I can say that this is one of the best cities that I've ever been to, and the quality of life and the lifestyle that it affords you in terms of like a healthier lifestyle, there's really nothing quite like it that I've seen. If you like this clip and want to watch another one, go ahead and click here. And if you want to make my day, smash that like button, drop a comment below, let me know your thoughts, and don't forget to subscribe. Hit that notifications bell so you don't miss out on the next video we drop.